Okay, so as some of you, the subscribers, would know, we recently purchased this lawnmower. I'm calling it the Behemoth or the Beast. So I'm gonna shorten the name and call it the Behemoth Beast. So we tried to sell it. We flipped it, tried to sell it. Some guy bought it, said he didn't want it, so we gave him his money back. We thought about selling it again. We put a for sale sign on it, and then Carolyn said, I want to keep it. So we're keeping it. Now, when I flipped it, I didn't change the oil or the air filter, spark plugs or anything, because they were reasonably okay. And there's no reason to waste money if you're trying to flip, in my opinion, if there is still life left on the components. So the oil filters, you know, have about half life on it. Now that we own it and we're going to keep it, Carolyn said she wanted me to service it. So we're going to service this today. It's not a huge task, but we're going to change the oil filter, the spark plugs, the air filter. Okay, so there's the drain hole. It's going to take a 5/16 Allen socket. And this one's pretty rusted, the Allen socket is, so I had to sand it down a little bit to get it in there. It's a tight fit, but we should be able to get it if it's not too tight. I had to rig up an oil setup here, or oil catch setup here. The funnel is in there to try to catch it. It's going to be a big mess. Well, the funnel didn't do a darn thing. What a mess. Okay, so I put some wood ash, firewood ash down. That soaks it up pretty good. Somebody's going to say you should have used an oil pan. Well, possibly, but the problem was the oil was hitting the mower deck and just kind of rolling off, so oil pan wouldn't have fit there. It looks like the only way to really get this to work right, or at least somewhat right, is take the mower deck off. Yet the steering column is still in the way, and so is this belt. So it's just in a bad spot. I might have to put an extension on that, but I think based on how this reacted, I wouldn't be able to extend it very far because it would hit the frame. I would have to use some sort of U-bolt to come up, and gravity doesn't work up. So now, I won't be changing the gas filter. I just changed it recently because I put in a fuel shutoff valve back here. So I just changed that like 3 or 4 days ago. So now we're changing the oil filter. Now in this twin cylinder, these twin cylinder engines, and the headlight isn't hooked up. I think I'll hook that up real quick since I've seen it. The twin cylinder uses a larger air filter, or oil filter, excuse me. When I mean larger, I mean longer. The thread is exactly the same. So I don't know how important it is that you use a larger one. It really doesn't do much more, I don't think. It just costs more. So the smaller engines use a skinnier, not quite as long, oil filter. I have a bunch of those, but since I ordered a bundle, kind of a service bundle, a new air filter, fuel filter, spark plugs, the whole thing, it came with it, so I'm going to use it. So now I'm going to put some fresh oil on my finger. We'll put that fresh oil on the gasket. When I bought this, that yellow oil filter was not on tight enough. I could move it by hand. Well, I tell you, all these cables are in the way. And when you're servicing a lawnmower for someone else, you should try to clean up your fingerprints from the oil filter so everybody knows that you did change it. I mean, obviously the color would be different, but I think it looks nicer. So now we'll put the oil plug back in. It's at the full mark right now, but I'm going to start it to fill up that oil filter and see where we're at. Okay, well, ran into a significant hiccup. So I put the oil in it, and I noticed that that little Allen oil plug, Allen key oil plug, was leaking. It was dripping. You know, one drip every 30 seconds or so. So I took it back out. Of course, all the oil, I tried to save the oil. It was stripped. Now, I don't think I stripped it. As a matter of fact, I felt funny about it when I took it out. It just didn't seem like it was right. So it was probably stripped before I started, and I just made it worse. So I had to go buy a tap. Went and bought a tap, and I've tapped it, and then I had this pipe off another lawnmower, and I put it in there. So that should be able to, I mean, it's not tight. That should, I also put Teflon tape. Now I know somebody's gonna say you can't use Teflon tape. I looked it up. You can use Teflon tape up to 500 degrees, and the lawnmower engine only gets to about not even 300 degrees. So that Teflon tape should hold it. Will also prevent all this mess, because now it's extended out past here. But the problem was trying to tap it. This was clearly in my way. There was just nothing I can do. You can actually see that the bolt is underneath this pipe. So I had to unbolt the engine. Now I was hoping I could put the engine back on, the bolts to the engine back on, without having to tear into it. But I'm gonna have to tear into it. So this is gonna have to be a continuation project. For you, it's gonna be instantaneous. For me, I gotta wait until tomorrow morning. But I need to take off the pulleys, which isn't a big chore. I need to take those off because the belt is causing tension, pulling the engine backwards, and I don't have the strength to pull it forward, hold everything up, and tighten those bolts back up. I also noticed there's a mouse nest in here. Now, of course, I'm going to change the spark plugs, so I should be able to see how bad that is. And I'm kind of hoping I don't have to clean all that, you know, take everything apart to clean that out. I'm hoping I can reach up in there. As a matter of fact, while I'm here, I'm going to go get a tool to see if I can get that out. And I think I got it. I don't think it was that bad. I don't know. Check up here. Ah, there we go. Got some more. It still isn't that bad. So tomorrow we will take that sprocket off, put the engine back on. For you, it'll be instantaneous. And then we'll go ahead and change the spark plugs and the air filter, and I think that's it. That's all we got. And then I'm going to put more oil back in it, new oil. I don't think I'll put that oil that I already had in it. I tried to catch it, but you know, with that being stripped out, there was some metal flakes coming out with it, so I don't think I want to use that again. I hate that I got to waste that oil because it's not cheap. Last night I put a headlamp on. I came out here and I got all the 4 bolts to hook back up. Got those put back on. So now we can finish our service and we'll start changing spark plugs. So we got, I guess, more mouse nest over here. It doesn't look like mouse though. Yeah, it is. You gotta get mice nest all out of there because it heats up your engine. The engine can't cool. These engines are air cooled. But I tell you, just not a lot of stuff in there. So fortunately, there's a lot of cooling on this one. You can see fins all over it, so it doesn't look like we are that bad off. Alright, so we're going to gap them 30 thousandths to 35 thousandths. So 31 in, 35 does not. Always try to, if you possibly can, to thread it by finger if possible, so you don't strip it. Strip the cylinder head. Okay, so we got it started. It looks like it's going to turn. Then you use the socket with your fingers. You don't use the wrench until you're ready to tighten it up. Okay, so now we're at the other side. Same thing, we're going to gap it 30, 35. $30 goes in, so does 35. So we'll knock it down a bit. That did it there. Again, we'll put it in by finger. Had to take the headlights off when I put the engine back on. Okay, I'm at the front of the lawnmower. I took the hood off just so you could see what I'm doing. Only like to really get a camera in there. So we have an air filter. This is a pre-filter. These are washable, and I always like to use them that way. If you get into a really dusty environment, you can clean these. Dawn dishwashing soap and some water, let it dry, put it back on, and it kind of preserves your filter a little bit. Now this piece was stuck onto the other old filter, so I had to pry it off with a screwdriver. So I didn't show you on camera, I greased the Zerks on the front tires and the turning column, steering column, universal joints or whatever you want to call those. So I think it's all serviced now, but boy, sometimes you just run into a problem. That's twice now I did a simple thing and you just run into a problem. Last thing I did was I changed the fuel filter. Excuse me, I put in a fuel shutoff valve. And the hose inside had corroded, and so it wouldn't seal. So I had to change out all the hoses. So these are just things you're going to run into if you buy an old lawnmower and you start servicing it and doing different things. You're going to run into other issues that just weren't maintained, that should have been maintained. So you just catch up on the maintenance. So if you'll click this up next box, it'll take you to a video where I was working on something. So if I can inspire you to fight through the battles, so you can live your dreams. Thanks for watching.